Hi there, it's Ron Gula from Gula Tech Adventures. In this week's episode, we feature some of the best interviews from the Gula Tech Cyber Fiction series of interviews we did during the COVID years. Some of these interviews feature some fairly famous people, such as the director of the Meg and Meg 2, the cast of CBS's MacGyver, Special Forces legend General John Mulholland, and a whole host of cybersecurity experts, NSA experts, and cyber policy leaders. We did about 60 interviews, and we stopped doing the 60-minute sort of long format in favor of this, the 10-minute, talking head sort of me speaking directly into the camera. However, since the show's gotten a lot more popular, what I thought would be interesting to go back and talk about some of my top sort of interviews that I get most feedback on. And like I said, we've had people from, we've had NFL players, we have entertainers, we've had politicians, people in different political positions. So I kind of broke it down to my top 2 favorite videos in basically cybersecurity, in entertainment and sports, and in political positions in politics. So for cybersecurity, I had a lot of interesting people on the show. We had Jeff Mann, we had Chris Kubecka, we had a lot of our portfolio CEOs and founders. But my top 2 cybersecurity experts that I ever interviewed, the first one was Eric Cole. Now, I knew Eric Cole from SANS. He's a SANS instructor, and he does a lot of private consulting, some investing, but he's touched a lot of people's lives in cybersecurity through his work with SANS and just being able to teach people about tabletops and whatnot. So you should check out the video. We cover a lot of ground. Eric's still very active in cyber, and it's a great and entertaining video. So do you teach people kind of how to pull all that apart, put it on a spreadsheet, put it on a PowerPoint, and present that to the board, present that to the CEOs?
Exactly. It's all about understanding the business. When we do security assessments, it always shocks everyone because when we go on site to perform our security assessment, the first thing we do when we get there is we sit down with the CFO and I want to understand the financials of the business.
Now, my second favorite cyber expert that I ever interviewed was Tony Sager. Now, Tony and I worked in Tony's organization at the National Security Agency, and we really go into the history of how standards like the NIST cybersecurity framework, the NSA, black guides, that sort of stuff, came into about. And we even talk about Center for Internet Security and some politics. So it's a great interview. Tony's done a lot. I was honored to be inducted into the Cybersecurity Hall of Fame with Tony this past year. He definitely deserves a lot more than I do. He's done a lot for the country and the industry, and he just keeps on giving. Great interview.
Security, right? We always thought of as a destination. We're going to get there. We'll be secure. That it doesn't look like it's going to happen.
I don't think we've got there yet.
Right.
Now, on the entertainment side, we've actually had a lot of different people. We had Sid Meier, who did a lot of amazing video games. We've had 2 NFL players, Kelvin Beachum and Trevor Price. Trevor's former offensive guard or defensive guard for the Ravens. He's got a company called Kulaparo. We did a bunch of stuff there. But the 2 really best interviews I think that we did, and I did a lot of these with my wife, Cindy, as well. So we interviewed Jon Hoeber. Now, John is a writer. He's written a lot of stuff that you've seen in the movie theaters, right? You've read 2, The Meg. He did Transformers. He did a whole bunch of stuff. Now, you might be wondering, why are we talking to a director and not about cyber, but cybersecurity? And this is more about how to pitch your company. And this was about the time we were coming up with the 5-slide pitch deck. It was definitely very interesting to go ahead and interview him and talk about that. I do pitches better based on that.
Just all these things incredible came together. We got into Sundance, opened Sundance in 1998. We're at the top of the world, thought it was all ready to go, and then proceeded to basically starve to death for the next 10 years. Unable to.
But the absolute number one most popular interview we ever did was focused on cybersecurity. And this was the reboot of the MacGyver TV series. We pretty much got the full cast and the director of MacGyver, and we talk to Riley. We talk to the woman who plays Riley about all the different scenes in these MacGyver movies. Some of these are straight out of headlines, which was great. So we got to do an interview over Zoom. This was during COVID, but it was a lot of fun.
I mean, it was weird. They hacked me so far. They were sending me Amber Alerts on my phone telling me that they knew exactly where I was.
I think we do a really good job, but I agree with you that a lot of the times, like you're trying to pitch a real storyline that happened, it just doesn't sound that great, and that's the challenge. And Straight and I talk about this a lot. Like, how do you shoot something to make it look dynamic? And I think especially this, we have an episode coming up with Tristan, and I was like, wow, that looks really cool and important. And I still don't understand exactly what she's doing, and I still think it's cool.
Now, lastly, I think if you've been watching this channel, we've been spending a lot of time talking about the political side, the policy side of cybersecurity. Lucky enough to have a former head of NASA on the show. We've had Brian Ware, who was a senior at the Department of Homeland Security in CISA. Great interviews, but my two sort of favorite interviews on the political politics policy side. The first one's Keirsten Todt. Now, Keirsten was on our grant committee for the Gula Tech Foundation. She was very active. But when Jen Easterly took over running CISA, Keirsten joined her as her chief of staff. And that was great, did a great job there, and helped a lot of people. But before that, I was interviewing her about her work with the NIST cybersecurity framework, as well as some times that she worked for the Joe Lieberman. And we talked about the birth of DHS and a wide variety of topics of all things cyber, including how to get women into cyber and that sort of thing.
The statistic at the time in 2016 was that every major hack that happened in the United States was sourced from an authentication failure, just a password that was breached. So if you even just take that one statistic and you get individuals and employees educated on what a strong password looks like and multi-factor, which is even easier now to convince people of than it was 3 years ago. But if you help people understand their role in cybersecurity and what they can be doing, then that human behavior piece becomes so critical.
But then lastly, one of our portfolio interviews was with Trinity Cyber. Trinity's run by Steve Ryan, former NSA senior leader, and also Tom Bossert. Now, Tom was the national security director for President Trump. And it's really interesting that he's gone on to do Trinity Cyber. We talk a lot about Trinity. It's basically an intrusion prevention system from the future that is protecting a lot of fairly interesting government sites and some commercial sites right now. But we talk about in this interview not only that, but also the role of policy and politics in cybersecurity.
People are focused on the supply chain, the Trojan horse of SolarWinds. How did all the bad guys get in? Well, they got into this Trojan horse, and they were accepted in the front door with a digitally trusted software update on the Orion software. They got inside your network, then they all climbed out of the belly of the Trojan horse. And for 6 to 9 months, they established other means of beaconing out and communicating back home and getting administrative level controls laterally of the network that was infected.
So we plan on doing more interviews. We're not doing it under the Gula Tech Cyber Fiction moniker anymore. This is all just the Gula Tech Adventures YouTube channel. We've done recent interviews, including the last one we did was Mike Varela, where we talk about the OpenAI lawsuit the lawsuit from the New York Times. So we're going to do more interviews. If you want to see more interviews like this, let us know. Connect with us on LinkedIn. Give us a suggestion of who we should interview. And, follow us, give us a like if you like these kind of videos. Enjoy going back and watching those old Gula Tech Cyber Fiction videos. And thank you for subscribing and watching this channel. Have a great day.
I'm a huge Expanse fan. I think it's the greatest, most realistic science fiction show.
Genre of fiction that we call useful fiction, and we've done a couple of novels with my partner August Cole that one was called Ghost Fleet, and it told the story of a World War III, what it might look like, and then more recently a project called Burn In that explores AI and Internet of Things and what are some of the cyber risks that come out of it.